Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Mal and I'm the owner and maker of Made by MANIANDMAL. In today's video, we are going to be doing a technique that has been requested a few times. It's not anything new by any means, but I've had a lot of people request that I make a tutorial on the technique, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be making a V-split tumbler. It's either a tracksuit, V-split, I call it a V-split. We're going to be doing two separate cups. So one I'm going to use pattern vinyl and glitter with, and then the other one we're going to use just glitter and just make it really sparkly and pretty. So I hope that you enjoy it. I hope it helps you. And yeah, everything I'm using is linked down below in the description box as always. I've got links to all of our social media, so our Facebook group, our Patreon group, our Instagram, all of that good stuff is linked down there as well. And of course, I've got some discount codes for you down there too. I hope that you enjoy the video. Let's go!
For our V-splits, we're going to be using two 20-ounce cups from Craft Haven, of course. The first one is a 20-ounce stubby. It is a straight edge cup, so there's no taper, which is perfect if you want to do a vinyl wrap or anything like that. The second one is the 20-ounce modern, and that one does have a bit of a curve to it, so I'm going to show you how to do the V-split on both of these. We're going to be using blue painter's tape for both designs, but for the 20-ounce stubby, I just wanted to show you kind of how you could do it if you just went in straight with your tape, didn't mark anything off or anything like that. So this is definitely doable, but it is definitely more frustrating. Basically what you want to do is lay your tape down at a slant or at an angle like I'm doing here, and the goal is to get your bottom point on one side of your cup to line up with the top point on the opposite side of your cup. So you want them to be like mirroring each other almost. And the goal as well is to get the point, like the full point to show. I didn't do such a great job on this V-split. The top point ends up being kind of cut off, but it worked out. It still ended up looking really cute. It's just kind of difficult on these smaller cups with this big tape, so that was probably my mistake. But I definitely tried this a lot of times. Like I took off the tape, readjusted it multiple times. I started over with new tape. So just really take your time, be patient. This does take a little bit of trial and error and practice, but you can get there, I promise. It's just a little bit of extra work. So now I've got my first piece of tape down that lines up with the bottom part lines up with the top part, which is great. So now I'm taking my second piece of tape and I'm going to try to mirror that on the opposite side, like going in the opposite direction so that we can get our points and our V's together. Even after I laid this down, I did readjust it just a little bit to make sure that it was right. My big thing is making sure that those points are lined up and that they're straight with each other and not kind of off to the side and tilted and slanted. Once the tape is placed down, you want to cut off the excess tape from when they cross over, and you should be left with a point like this. So you can see on the top and the bottom, I do fix the bottom here, but like the tip of the point is cut off because it goes past the edge of the rim. So just keep an eye on that, be mindful of that. You can always readjust it if you like it this way. I thought this ended up looking really cute, even with the kind of flat points. It's totally personal preference, of course, but yeah, I would just look out for those and then trim off all of your excess, and you should be left with your 2 points looking at something like this, and it should swirl around easy peasy. So for this straight edge cup, I wanted to show you how you can do a V-split with pattern vinyl. I have this half sheet of vinyl. You can get a full or half sheet. I ordered this particular pattern as a half sheet, which is perfect for this little cup. I'm going to apply it basically the exact same way that I would a full vinyl wrap. I'm going to try to get those seams of this vinyl to match up where the point is at the very bottom, and we're wrapping this around this bottom portion. So I want to make sure that I have enough vinyl up top to cover that entire top point. So this is kind of a waste of vinyl. It could be a waste of vinyl. I do save the excess, but if you wanted to print out your own pattern vinyl, you totally can. You can just use regular printable vinyl and use it for something like this. You can also use a water slide, whatever is easier for you to use. especially if you think that you're gonna like maybe mess it up or you can't do it. I would recommend printing your own so that you don't waste this expensive pattern vinyl. But I had this half sheet and I wanted to use it before Christmas time, of course, so that's what I'm doing. So I wrapped it around and I cut off the excess, and now what I'm doing is trimming the vinyl so that it is only in that bottom portion. So this can get kind of confusing when you're cutting around all of your V's. The biggest thing is just to remember to remove the tape or remove the excess vinyl from the correct side. So initially I removed like the bottom portion, the part I was trying to keep, and then I had to fix it. So just make sure that you're removing the correct portion of vinyl. I'm gonna finish the bottom the exact same way I always do. I'm pulling up the vinyl really tight up over that bottom rim, and then I'm gonna trim off the excess. And as you saw before, I kept the excess vinyl. I just kind of trimmed it and put it right back on that same backing. And I'm gonna keep it so we can use it to help finish the bottom of our cup. For the top portion, we're going to use some glitter. So I'm using Extravaganza from PDB and Pop of Color paints. This is lamb's wool. It's a really pretty cream, kind of like eggshell color almost. And I'm just gonna do a really nice solid coat of this paint on here. And then once it dried, I let it dry about 45 minutes. I'm going to go in with my Crystal Hat glitter glue and use that as the adhesive for my glitter. The glitter we're using is Extravaganza from PDB. It's a beautiful chunky mix. If you don't have it, I would definitely recommend getting it because it's so beautiful. So I just spread a quick thin coat of that glitter glue all over that top portion of the cup. And now I'm going in with Extravaganza. Like, look at that. Oh, beautiful. So there's our cup all glittered, and I'm going to run my thumb along the top rim of the cup to get off any excess glitter that might be hanging out up over the rim that I don't want to deal with later. Immediately after glittering, I'm going to remove the tape that we laid down, and you'll see that we have now just a stainless steel base where that tape was laying. I'm going to let this dry about 2 hours, and then I'm going to go in and seal the glitter with a second coat of that glitter glue. I've done that in a lot of my videos. I highly recommend using the glitter glue to seal your glitter because it will not go anywhere. Once that sealer coat has dried 2 hours, I'm going back in with my painter's tape and I'm taping off that middle section or around that middle section so that I can paint it and glitter that section. I'm using Pop of Color paints again. This time I'm using Woods at Night, which is a really pretty deep teal color. And we're going to use 6 from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's a new glitter from them. It's really pretty, and I thought it went really well with this like Christmas vibe we have going. I did 2 coats of this Woods at Night paint, so after that second coat dried, I went in with my glitter glue and applied a thin, even coat to this area. And now I'm going in with 6. Now 6 is a fine cut glitter, but you can absolutely use a chunky, you can use whatever cut size you want for this. This isn't a super tiny area, so if you wanted to use a chunky cut, you absolutely can. I don't think it would give you any issues or anything like that, so don't feel like you have to use a fine cut for any of these sections of your cup. After I'm done glittering, I'm going to remove all of my tape, and here's what the cup looks like so far. I definitely didn't do a perfect glittering or perfect painting or cutting, but that's okay. It's all going to come together in the end, I promise. So once that glitter dried, I went in with another coat of the glitter glue. So this is how I seal my glitter with the glitter glue. I literally just squirt it out of the bottle onto the glitter and spread it all the way around. Don't be afraid to use quite a bit. You can also water this down if you feel more comfortable watering it down. I don't, I just squirt it right out of the bottle. But either way. So once that dried, I let this dry overnight. I went in with my first coat of epoxy. I'm taking about 25 to 30, probably closer to 25 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, and I did 2 coats on that. So now we're ready to move on to the curved cup, and I'm going to show you what I do to make this V-split process a little bit easier. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to mark about a quarter to a half inch from the top. And then I'm going to mirror that on the opposite side. I'm going to do about a quarter to a half inch from the bottom. So you can see that my bottom point and my top point are directly opposite each other. So this is going to help me place my point of my tape. So I've got my cup in my little cradle here. I am using smaller painter's tape for this one. This is 1 inch painter's tape as opposed to, I think the other one I had is 1.5 inches. And I'm going to attach my tape at that top point that I drew on the top of my cup, and I'm going to wrap it around so that it meets at the bottom point that we drew on the opposite side of the cup. And we are going to trim off the excess. So what I'm trying to do is just make sure that the edge of my tape meets at that point, and then I've got a little bit of excess that I can trim off and have the point show on the cup. My cup wanted to run away, so I had to bring it back. Now that I've got that first piece of tape laid down, I'm going to go in and do the exact same thing going the opposite direction. And what I'm trying to do is really make sure that the slant of my tape is the same on both sides. I don't want it to look like a wonky curve. I really want these to have the same curve, the same slant, the same like direction in the tape. So I'm making sure that I've got this laying down straight, that I don't have any curves or creases in my tape. So once I've got my tape laid down, I'm going to double check and make sure that my points are lined up and directly mirroring each other, and you can see that they are not. They're a little bit off. So I'm going to take these bottom points and I'm just going to readjust them so that they do meet up directly on the opposite side of our top point. And you can see with that excess where I'm going to cut off, I'm going to have a full point on the bottom. So I'm just going to cut right where that tape meets up, right on the edge of where the other tape is, if that makes sense, like the side edge of that tape. So when you trim off the excess, you're left with a perfect point, and I'm going to just repeat that same process on the top point as well. So that made it a whole lot easier to lay down the tape, just literally drawing two little points at the top and the bottom. So there we go, there's our V-split. For this, I was inspired by this color palette. And I put a poll up on my Instagram to see which of the two color palettes that I found you guys wanted to see or you guys picked. And it was pretty close, but this blue and purple pink situation won, and I was kind of happy because I wanted to do something with it. So I made a few little custom mixes with my glitters to try and match this palette the best I could. So for this first like blue dark teal mix, I took Turks and Kokomo, both from Peachy Olive Glitters, and then Pavo and Skinny Dip from PDB. Skinny Dip is like the main character of this mix, Pavo is a secondary, and then Turks and Kokomo are really just kind of to bring a little bit of that teal tone in. For the light blue, I took Vortex from PDB and Cold Shoulder, also from PDB, and I did about a 50-50 mix for those two. For this pink mix, I took Deja Vu and Baby's Breath, both from PDB also, and did the same, about a 50-50 mix for those. This kind of magenta-y purple is just Velvet by itself. And then for the last mix for our deep purple, I took Sirius from PDB and Fornado from Peachy Olive Glitters and did a 50-50 mix for that as well. I've got a lot of requests to do non-spray paint base coating. So for this, we're going to use just this regular acrylic paint that I got at Hobby Lobby. We're going to do like a true purple and then a tealish blue. I will have the names of the paints listed in the description box below. So we're going to start out with the top portion, which is the purple, and I'm going to do, this is a pretty thick coat. I did just do one coat of paint because I did have such a thick coat on there. Just made sure it was evenly coated, and then I cleaned off my brush and I'm going to go in with this teal turquoise blue color on the bottom. Same, I'm going to do a pretty thick coat of this so that I only have to do one coat. Just going to make sure that it's not like globby or gloopy or anything like that on my cup. I'm going to also take care of the bottom. So we should be left with a cup that's base coated just like this. The coverage is actually pretty good. So I let this dry overnight, and now I'm going to mix 5 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy. And we're going to apply our glitter using the epoxy method. You definitely don't need 5 milliliters, but it's really, really difficult to mix anything less than that. So I mixed it for just maybe like 2 minutes tops. You really don't need to mix a long time. And I'm going to do this blue bottom section first. So I'm going to spread a little tiny bit of that epoxy all over the bottom section of my cup. And I'm being really, really careful to not get any of the epoxy anywhere other than on this blue section because I don't want any of my glitter going into the purple section. So I'm taking the first dark color. I'm obsessed with this mix, by the way. I want to make a whole lot of it. So I'm doing the bottom of the cup, and what we're going to do is do a dark to light ombre from the bottom up, and then when we get into the purple, we'll do a dark to light ombre from the top down. So taking this first dark color, I'm going pretty heavy on that very bottom rim and then lightening up the coverage as we kind of let the fade travel up the cup in this case, or travel up towards our point. And then I'm going to go in with my lighter blue mix, and I'm going to just kind of let this fade into each other. This is not a like perfect by the book ombre, I guess you would say, but these colors did blend really, really well together, and I didn't have to do very much work to get them to blend together, which was awesome. Then going back in with the dark teal color one more time, I'm just going to build the fade. The lighter blue mix has a chunkier cut of glitter in it, so I did go a little bit heavier with that, and now I'm bringing in the dark blue that is mostly fine cuts. It got a little bit of a chunky in it, but it's mostly fine, and I'm just really covering the whole thing, and then that will build our fade. So really not a lot of effort going into building these ombres because they blend really, really well together. I'm going to take a baby wipe after I'm done glittering and clean off that purple section. Just make sure we don't have any glitter or epoxy or anything there. And then I'm going to add my thin coat of epoxy to this top purple section. And as you can see, I've done my epoxy on my cup, and I still have at least 2.5 milliliters left in my cup of epoxy. So you don't use the whole thing. I just use that epoxy on another cup, basically. I just use it for something else. So taking now the dark purple mix that we put together, I'm going to go really heavy on that top rim, and then I'm going to start to lighten up my coverage going down. I'm really trying to avoid my blue glittered section with this purple glitter, doing my best to avoid it. If you get a little bit in there, it's okay. You've got good enough coverage on the bottom that you shouldn't have any contamination issues or mixing or anything like that. Then going in with my velvet glitter color, I'm just going to go pretty heavy with this. This is just a singular fine cut. I'm going to go in with that, and then I just took it straight out of the bottle to really help build the fade of this going up into that dark purple mix. I'm going to go back in one more time with the chunky just to reinforce that ombre and the blend, and then we're done glittering. So it's really easy to get those fades. You don't have a whole big area to work with, so it's pretty easy to get those down. Once I'm done glittering, I am going to go in and very, very, very carefully remove this tape. I use my X-Acto knife to help get that little point up, and then I took my scissors to cut that tape in half so I can just peel it off piece by piece like this. Again, you want to do this very carefully just so you don't mess up all of the glitter that you just put down. So there's what our cup looks like now. I'm going to let this sit and dry for about 4 hours, and then I'm going to seal it with 2 really, really good solid coats of clear gloss spray from Rust-Oleum. So our glitter is sealed. It's good to go. Next, I'm going to go in with Princess Pink, which is this light pink acrylic paint. I'm going to use as a base for this middle V, and this is where we're going to put that light pink mix that we put together. I'm going to do 2 coats of this paint as our base, to make sure that we have a really good solid base coat. I don't want to see any like silver from the stainless steel coming through. I just want to be really, really careful. Like you can see how slowly I'm painting. I do speed it up here, but you want to take your time. You don't want to get any of this acrylic paint on those glittered sections. So really just be careful as you're painting. I would recommend using a smaller brush for this, and just really take your time as you paint. Let your first coat dry about 30 minutes, and then you can go in with your second coat. So once that second coat of paint was all dry, I went in with my Crystalac glitter glue, and I'm just very carefully applying it the same way that I applied the paint. I'm being really careful not to get any of it on those 2 glittered sections that we already have down. And then I'm going in with our light pink mix, and I'm just covering the entire surface of this V. I'm not too concerned with any glitter fallout. The glitter is sealed on that top and bottom, so we shouldn't have too many issues with contamination or anything. I let it dry about 2 hours, and then I went in and I sealed it the exact same way that I sealed the V on our first V split, that green one that we're working on as well. Same way, I took the Crystalac glitter glue and very carefully just sealed that middle V portion. I let that dry overnight, and then I went in with 2 coats of epoxy on our cup. I did about 30 milliliters for the first one and about 20 for the second one. So now we're ready to add all of our striping and decals and all of that fun stuff. So we're back on our first design now with the 20-ounce stubby, and I've done all of my sanding. It's smooth and ready for decals. So I'm going to do the striping on the V first. So I cut these first stripes. We're going to layer these two on top of each other. These first stripes are 0.2 inches wide, and I cut them out of red chrome vinyl from Tech Wrap Craft. And I'm going to lay those onto the V of my cup. Basically, I just secured it to one point, and then I rolled my cup and just let the vinyl kind of fall, and I just kind of worked it around any of the spaces that I had from where I missed painting or where I didn't cut the vinyl straight. I'm just going to cover those right up with this vinyl, and you are not even going to know that I didn't do a great job painting. So once those two meet up, I'm going to take my craft knife and just cut off the excess so that we have a little bit of a point at the bottom. And then we'll repeat this exact same process for that top V outline. For the top striping, I'm using champagne gold textured metallic vinyl, also from Tech Wrap Craft, and I cut these at half the width, so these are 0.1 inches wide, and they're going to go right in the middle of this red vinyl that we laid down earlier. I really like the depth and dimension that this adds. It ties in the red a little bit from Santa's hat and just brings it all together and gives it a nice, like, elegant look, and I really like how that came together. So if you want to layer your striping, it will definitely take it to the next level. So I'm just very, very carefully making sure that I can keep this vinyl in the middle of my red stripe and not get it like wonky or wiggly or anything like that. I'm going to do the exact same thing once I've got them down. I'm going to cut off the excess so that they come to a point, and then repeat the steps for my bottom V striping. Okay, so here is what that looks like all complete. And now we're ready to add our main decal to this top V portion. I cut out this really cute 'Tis the Season decal, and I did the opposite with the vinyl. So I have the champagne gold textured vinyl on the bottom, and then the same red chrome vinyl as our top piece. So this is all tied together and coordinating. This file I actually got from like a doodle font pack. I'll try to find where I got it, and that's where I found that 'Tis the Season file. And then to finish off the bottom of this cup, I cut two circles out. So I cut one that's like a really kind of true Christmassy dark green color, and I cut this at a little over 3 inches wide, and I'm going to put that down on the bottom of our cup first because the rest of the vinyl that we had from our vinyl wrap wasn't big enough to cover the whole circle. So we're going to do a little bit of a layering thing here. So I'm going to lay down this green circle first, use my craft knife to pop any bubbles, and then I'm going to go in with the circle that I was able to cut out of the remaining pattern vinyl, so Santa's face. And I cut this at a little less than 3 inches. I think it was like 2.7 inches wide, and I just laid that right in the center. So now I'm going to do the striping for our fully glittered V-split. And I cut these at 11.5 inches long by 0.1 inches wide, and I'm using this holographic, it's kind of like a shattered holographic effect. It's really cool vinyl, and it's from Tech Wrap Craft, so I'll have a link for that in the description box below, as well as a discount code for you for Tech Wrap Craft. I'm just going to lay these down exactly how we did with our first cup, except for this one, I'm not layering. I'm just going to do this one thin strip of vinyl and really let the glitter do all the talking. I chose this holographic because it brings together all of the colors and it's got a ton of shift to it, and I felt like it just worked really well with all of the colors we have going on in this pattern. So once I had those on, I did seal this one with a coat of Quick Coat from CCDIY just to make sure that our vinyl didn't lift or go anywhere. And then I sealed these with 2 coats of epoxy, and once those 2 coats of epoxy were all finished, the cups are all done. The Christmas one actually needs one more coat. It's not perfectly smooth, and so I'm going to do another coat on that one. But this is what the final result will look like once it does get its final coat afterwards. So here's the Christmas one. I love Santa's little face. He's so cute. And then here is our fully glittered one.
So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it helps you to create your V-split tumblers. These are so much fun to make, and the possibilities and combinations are totally endless. You could do water slide, patterned vinyl, your own printable vinyl, or of course, just plain glitter. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you don't miss any new videos. We upload new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you in my next one. Love you. Bye.